everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. As always, honored to be here with you now. For those of you who are live or who will be joining anytime today, I want to first say that we learned that one of the great world leaders, spiritual leaders, Pope Francis, passed away this morning. And it's kind of amazing. I don't know, for those of you who, whether you are Christian, Catholic, if you turn on the TV at any point during the day, if you turn it on at any point on the day, yesterday, which was Easter, there were images of the Pope greeting everyone at the Vatican. You know how it's the practice for the Pope to come out, I think twice a week, but he had not done so for quite some time because he had been very ill. And then he came back to the Vatican, and yesterday on Easter, he greeted all those who had gathered at the Vatican. And it was a beautiful thing to see him commune with his fellowship. And it's really a global fellowship, far broader than the Catholic faith, because as a world leader, he was someone whose vision and the legacy of the papacy living through him was very powerful. And he, in particular, did a lot to help modernize the church and help open understanding and thought about life today and some of the challenges and questions and thoughts that people have as they are living in this world. So many are mourning him and feeling gratitude for him. And I just wanted to take a moment for all of us who are gathered to honor this great being who served in such a profound way for a long time. And many hearts are heavy at this moment as he has left us. And I think one of the things that we need to be mindful of is that when our loved ones leave, they don't leave if we hold on to them in spirit and remember the gifts that they offer to us. And that surely will be true for the Pope. So blessings to him and his congregation and folks the world over who are singing his praises and mourning his loss today. Today, I was inspired just in preparing for being with you today, thinking about, what soothes the soul, what can help us to find our way when we feel tender, when we feel hurt, when we feel unseen or unknown, when there's a sense of disconnection with others. Sometimes it's that sense, something about us. Sometimes what's often, no matter what, ends up being about us, I think. But sometimes it's friction with other people. And, what do you do when you feel brittle, when you feel impatient, when you feel like you don't want to have to deal with whatever it is that is before you and you wish it would be easier and you feel judgmental? What can you do when you are in a tender space? And usually I think this happens, at least in my experience, when there's something you feel you want and need that you're not getting. And so then you kind of look around, well, it's got to be somebody's fault that this is happening. And I have learned that when you start feeling that way, when you start pointing the finger at others, I've said this a million times. This is the Harrietism. When you start pointing your finger at others, wrestle it around and turn it to you and ask yourself, what is my role in this? Not an easy question to ask, an even more difficult question to answer, but I have discovered that when I can do that, when I find myself pointing fingers, when I find myself feeling a lot of intense energy outward toward someone else or something else, if I can pause and turn it around and do some self-reflection, I often can neutralize that energy. Now, it takes a lot of steps, a lot of work. It's not necessarily easy, but I do think it's worth it. And I think the core of this is to be compassionate, to choose to be compassionate. And that is so not easy to do. Sometimes we just want to be mad. Sometimes we are okay with feeling the energy of pain and hurt and being misunderstood, being mistreated in some way or another. Sometimes there's a perverse pleasure that people get in stewing in that space. I wanna say, get out of it, step out of it. Don't keep doing that. It's not worth it. It's not healthy. And I think the more judgmental that we are toward others is also reflective of how judgmental we are of ourselves. You know that saying, "I am my harshest critic"? Would you say that's true about you? How critical are you of yourself on a daily basis? How often are you putting yourself down in some way or another? Well, I could have done better than that. I should have done better than that. I can't even talk about this or that because I didn't do it well enough. I need to kind of squash that. Um, if only I had done X or Y. There's so many things we do that are self-critical. And when we are particularly self-critical, we often are incredibly critical of others. Isn't it funny? Sometimes the so-called meanest people are the most self-conscious. They wouldn't ever say that that's true about themselves. But if you pay close attention to them, you often see that people who are ultra critical are doing that same kind of criticism to themselves. And I've done it many, many times. So I'm speaking from experience, but I want to say we can stop. It is possible when you feel yourself in that cycle, it is possible to stop, to pump the brakes and say, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have to continue. The moment of awareness, when you realize, oh, I'm doing that thing, I'm being judgmental, I'm beating somebody else up over there in my mind or sometimes with my words, my tone. And if you look at yourself, "Ooh, I'm not being so kind to myself." How do you neutralize that? Well, of course, engaging the breath helps, right? We know how powerful that can be to help change your mood, to help, wash the negativity away. That works. But also with that needs to be a change of attitude. Rather than choosing to be judgmental, choose to look at the situation and see, why would this person do whatever it is the person is doing? Why would a person treat me in this way? Why would this person behave in this manner? Why? Why have you ever had that question? Why would the person do that? Why would anybody do that, whatever that is? And then rather than, "I can't believe you did that," sit back and say, "What possible reason might that person have for doing whatever it is? And could there be a legitimate reason in that person's mind, life, in this moment in time for that to happen?" Even if you don't understand it, could it be possible that there is a legitimate reason in that person's mind for whatever action the person took? That is looking at the person and the situation with compassion. That is saying, rather than having a knee-jerk reaction, Taking the time to step back and say, what is it? What's the reason that this is happening? You know, Virginia says she takes a deep breath and slows down. Yes, yes, Virginia, that's it. It works. After the deep breath, after slowing down, in that space, I think that is when we need to ask for grace to look at the situation differently, to ask for the ability to see from another person's perspective. Because when you look from your perspective at something someone said or did that is hurtful, like, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. If you look from their perspective, oh, they're protecting themselves. They're not thinking about me right now. They're overwhelmed by whatever's going on in their world. The list can be very long as to the what that person considers legitimate reasons for doing whatever it is that you find hurtful or offensive. That book, The Four Agreements, the one that I think about so often is don't take it personally. If you can find a way to not feel like when someone does something that is harmful to you, for you to pause, take that breath, and believe that it is possible that it's not personal, even when it feels like a personal attack. Even when they say things personally to you that are hurtful, if you could back up and say, wait a minute, if I believe that this isn't personal, what is it? A, if it's not personal, I can feel less personally attacked and hurt. That's really important. And then beyond that, I can look at the other person and with a softer gaze and think, why is this happening? What is happening to this person to trigger this kind of behavior? You know how that saying, hurt people hurt people? So, what is making this person hurt? Why is this person who is hurting me doing it? What is happening in that person's life? That is looking through the lens of compassion. That is looking with a, a decision to not be so clouded by your own emotion that you cannot see what's in front of you. When the emotion is strong, often you can't see. And you just wonder, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? What did I do? Why? Now, doesn't mean that there aren't things you didn't do. This is not absolving us of our responsibility for self reflection and course correction. Those things are very important. But the outward gaze at others, the relationship we have with others, that often takes up a lot of our energy and can just, as I said, upset the apple cart, completely change our mood because somebody said or did something. We have some control over that. We have the ability to recenter, to re-engage our power, and to understand whatever someone did outside of who we are is what that person did. It's not what we did. So there's a quote that I found from a contemporary and a person who many of you know, Tracy Ellis Ross, that I want to share with you. I really like this quote. She says, as I get older, the more I stay focused on the acceptance of myself and others and choose compassion over judgment and curiosity over fear. Let me read that again. As I get older, the more I stay focused on the acceptance of myself and others and choose compassion over judgment and curiosity over fear. So let's unpack this. She's saying a whole lot in here. First of all, as I get older, Isn't wisdom supposed to come with age? Yes, but only if we do the work. I spoke to a friend recently about another friend of ours whom we love dearly, who has not so much been doing the work. And so he gets stuck in a space of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Why? Because if you don't work on yourself and work to refine the behaviors and attitudes and actions that guide your steps, then you're just going to stay in that space. And a lot of people do that. And we have this one friend who does that. And our mutual friend said to me, when people are stuck, if they don't do the work, they're going to stay stuck. Well, I don't want to stay stuck. Do you? I absolutely don't want to stay stuck. And as I get older, Tracy Ellis Ross says, basically, I learn things. And so for her, she says, the more I stay focused on the acceptance of myself and others, staying focused on the acceptance of myself. I love myself just the way I am. And I'm willing to love myself and improve as I see fit, right? I love my friends. I support them. I accept them. I'm not trying to change them. I also don't have to enable them, right? You can accept others and not enable them. You don't just have to let them do anything they want, say anything they want. You can put on the brakes, you can create boundaries, but trying to change them, we know it's hard enough for us to change ourselves. So Tracy Ellis Ross says, as I get older, the more I stay focused on the acceptance of myself and others. This is who I am. This is who you are. I see you. I accept you for who you are. And then she says, and choose compassion over judgment. So, compassion, I will look at you with love. I will look at you through the lens of understanding. I will look at you with a notion to forgive you for what you're not doing well enough, right? I will look at you for who you are. I will accept you for who you are. And to the best of my ability, I will show you what I see and reflect it back to you so you can see. And sometimes that reflection will help open people's eyes because it isn't mean, it isn't vicious, but it's honest. So instead of being judgmental, it's still helping people to see. I see you. I see you. And I'm not going to judge you, but I want you to know that I see you. And curiosity over fear. So this curiosity over fear is a huge one for us, for our individual selves. How often do you shut down, not even look at whatever is before you that may be difficult? Suddenly, that over there, I'm not going to deal with that because I'm afraid of that. I can't handle that. It's too big for me. I just am going to deal with this little thing right here or all these little things. I have way too many things to do in order to deal with that. Do you ever find yourself in that position? Curiosity over fear. What about being curious about the things that are the big boulders in your life? Being curious about how to face whatever the challenges are. Having an attitude of curiosity and wonder rather than being so petrified, so afraid that you can't move. So Tracy Ellis Ross says, as I get older, the more I stay focused on the acceptance of myself and others and choose compassion over judgment and curiosity over fear. I just find this to be such a powerful quote. Sippy Ryder says, compassion over judgment, curiosity over fear. These are great wisdom nuggets. They really are. And I was so happy to hear it from a woman who, I mean, I think we're probably similar in age, having some life experience, having some ups and downs as we all have had, and learning from them. Now we're going to have lessons for our entire lives. That's the beauty of living. But knowing that you actually can improve yourself, you don't have to just stay stuck. Curiosity helps you to get unstuck, right? Compassion helps you to get unstuck. If you love yourself, I have a friend who says, give yourself a hug. If you love yourself, if you choose to acknowledge the goodness within you, acknowledge that you are worthy of love and respect. And if you're not getting it from whatever external forces and people who are in your life, that doesn't mean you don't deserve it. That just means you probably have to pick some other people to be part of your inner circle. Much easier said than done, but it can be done. Don't stay stuck and afraid. Breathe and allow yourself to push past those negativities, that can be paralyzing. Hello, Kimberly. Hello, everybody. Those of you who are connected, tell us, type in the chat box, where are you? I'd love to hear where folks are. I'm in Baltimore right now. Came down for Easter to be with my family, to be with my mom. And, she's always going to give us that bright, shining smile no matter what. What a blessing. Do you know how to find that inner smile? Can you call upon that smile that lives deep within your being, that is representative of the joy of being alive and having love in your life? I find that, well, my mother's the inspiration, I talk about it all the time. And I told her yesterday, many of the people who are part of my community feel like they know you because I talk about you all the time and share so many of the lessons that you have shared with me and my sisters. And she got the biggest smile on her face. And she says, "Thank you. Thank you." And it's so true. One of the best ones is the smile, just accessing the smile. Now, let me tell you, folks are here, Baltimore, Detroit, Brooklyn. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining this covenant of fellowship and love, because that's what this has felt like. I see Peaks here. She's been here, and Daryl, from the beginning. We started this in April of 2020 when the whole world was shut down, and we wanted to connect with spirit to others, to uplift ourselves. Um, and we've been doing that. We've been doing that, making a conscious effort to tap into the spirit, to tap into the community of fellowship, because I believe that human beings need to have community along with faith, but we need each other. And there's something really powerful about knowing that there are other people out there who are making the choice to come together, to focus on some aspect of our spiritual beings, and to then carry that on throughout the week. So no matter what is happening, we are able to tap back into that. That's what I've learned in my life of practicing meditation for more than 30 years. You can tap into it again and again and again and again. You can reconnect to your greatness. And sometimes, especially when we feel tender, it's important to do it all the time. Like, it doesn't, there's nothing wrong with you if you find yourself off center a lot. What's wrong is if you don't bring yourself back to center. And it's not a judgment. It's just Meaning, if you keep practicing, come back to center, take that breath. Invite the goodness to fill you. Find the inner smile. You know, I mean, back to my mom, it is amazing. She will be in the most tender space and will say, "Mom," because she knows how to take a picture, so maybe that's a little bit of vanity too, but she will say, "Mom, come on, smile with us." And she was talking to my sister Susan yesterday on the FaceTime, thank God for that, and I wanted to take a picture of the 2 of them, and I said, "Come on, Mom and Susan, give us a smile." And the megawatt smile came out, and it's always authentic. Is your smile always authentic? I want you to start noticing your smile and noticing, uh, from where you draw it. You know, is it we know what a fake smile looks like, but an authentic smile is drawing that goodness from your core and offering it as a gift to others. And this is something my mother does. I've never seen her offer a fake smile when she's given us a smile. Now she knows how to throw shade if somebody is not doing what they're supposed to do, that's different. But I want you to contemplate from where you find your smile. I want you to notice what it feels like when it is the inner smile. For me, it is very calming. It's like a gift of love that you give yourself because it's filling your being, but because it's also outward, you offer it to others and it gives them energy. They feel love because that's what you're offering. It's really incredibly powerful. Hey, hey, Judy, my line sister. Um, all I can tell you is that when you access that space of love within you and you lead with that, it becomes much easier to see with compassion and not judgment. Now, it doesn't mean you aren't battling sometimes. I went through this a little bit this weekend with, and by the way, internally, I was unhappy with someone who had not shown up the way that I thought was appropriate. And it hurt my feelings, and I was mad, and all of this was inside. I didn't say a thing. I just experienced it, and I did my breathing, and I did my meditation, and I just sat still with it, and I said, "Okay, let it go. Something is happening with that person. This isn't about me." And so I don't have time to go down a spiral as to why this is happening. What I have to do is take care of me. Now, that is the as I get older that Tracy Ellis Ross is talking about. Because 'cause I'm here to tell you, younger me be like, "What?" And, go off on someone sometimes, because we all can do that. I did an inner processing and then let it go. And so I'm saying to you, these tools, this what we do in inspiration is kinda unpack these thoughts and make the effort to apply it to our daily life so that when you leave this, because we're about to leave now, take these ideas and practice them. Practice engaging compassion over judgment. Practice engaging curiosity over fear. That one, ooh, if you dare, make a list of the things that you're afraid of. What makes you fearful right now? In your personal life, in your health, in your work life, what gives you fear? And can you look at those very things, those big looming things that normally we just say, "Oh, I'm not gonna look at that." Can you look at them with curiosity? What can I do about this? What can I learn from this? This one might be harder than the compassion one, but there are few assignments in Tracy Ellis Ross's quote. First of all, we're all older than we were yesterday. So as I get older, how can I be better? She says she can be better. She's being better. Me too. Are you? So as I get older, I can look at myself differently. I can look at others differently. I can choose compassion over judgment. I can choose I I can choose compassion over judgment. I just want because this today is choose compassion, compassion over judgment, and curiosity over fear. If you work on these things this week, I promise you will feel better about yourself. Now, I didn't say it would be easy, but you could feel better about yourself, about your effort to tend to yourself, about your ability to take care of yourself independent of others, to take care of your heart, right? Because relationships are so much better when you are taking care of yourself. So I just want to acknowledge there are a few comments that are just so sweet. Sippy Writer says, yes, we love and pray for Mother Cole. Thank you. We appreciate that. Prayer works. We've had some wonderful days recently, and, you know, she was the first one to say the power of prayer. And Chandra says, your smile can make someone's day. My mom taught me the importance of a smile. Yes, everyone. So as we leave now, remember that smile, access that smile, study your smile, engage the authentic smile. You have it in there. No matter what's going on in your day, you can find it. And when you do and you offer it to yourself and others, the world lights up that much more brightly. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.